Thanks for checking out this highlight from the Casually Hardcore podcast. If you want to check out the full podcast after the show, please be sure to hit the top link in the description. But now, let's do it. What do we think that they're going to leave to announce later? Happy, you already talked about the Digital Fan Fest. Thinking that's kind of more in line with us. So yeah, like I'm gonna start with you. Like, so we Friday ends. We know 5.5 stuff is coming right after that. So I'm not gonna kind of bundle that in. But sometime around May in the summer, like what are they saving for us to announce? What do you think?
So I think the 24-man raid series, we will not find out what it is. I think it will be another extravagant thing that we didn't ask for, like Nier was, and that they will save that for May. And they will bring on the guest developer, whoever it may be, and that's going to be at the Digital Fan Fest. I think the full trailer is obviously a gimme because we have to wait for 5.5 to come out. Mm-hmm. And I do think that there's going to be, the question is less, what are they? It's not what are they saving, it's just what are they not telling us yet, for me. Which sounds like the same thing, but, you know, the media tour, obviously, not going to happen this year. So is it going to be where they do all the job actions and the job trailer? That's where we got announcements on, maybe the stat squish is, saved for that if that's going to happen. There's a ton of stuff comes with that, but we're expecting a later expansion release than normal. So would they still do the media tour in May? Like the equivalent of the presentation for that? I don't think so. I think that's actually something for even later. Mm-hmm. I'm torn because this has to be, that's another 3 months. That's like not one fan fest worth of information to hold off on. That's like, just things that aren't ready to show. I don't know. I'm torn on what's actually not going to be in this.
I could see them doing within that kind of mindset where we would see them show off the full trailer, like because 5.5 theoretically is out, 5.55 hopefully is either getting that conclusion going so they can kind of show off the trailer and not worry about an accidental spoiler in terms of the moon or whatever the heck is going to happen. I think essentially you're right. I don't know if you coupled what would be the traditional media tour with FanFest. I think you still save that to be closer to the release, and that's just, I would say let's assume release is September. I could see the virtualized media tour being set up in August to kind of help prepare people, and just like we did last time, like go hands on. I think essentially one of the things we're seeing them learn from like Outriders and these things, they're doing those things digitally now. And with the power of like just even cloud computing, I could see, them just say, hey, we put the client on these systems, you connect to them. So that way we don't actually have the physical installs like on our boxes in case like they were worried about some like a data miner going nuts or going ham on it. That way it's like, yeah, you just stream it and capture your stuff, and then here's the NDA, and here's that. I could see that happening later. I think the virtualized fan fest is going to be like a celebration as best as they can, and hopefully that means they got some kind of in-game stuff happening, and like, hey, we've been able to do this. And
you've just given me another answer.
Okay,
a trial.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be really cool.
We get a trial every fan fest. There's some sort of like, it was the Ultima the 1 year, but
yeah. But as a 24-man, like imagine if it's like, because the fan fest is like was always like on their own private servers. It'd be neat to see if they were like, okay, like they've had a year, they can kind of say, let's just push that into the game as a Unreal. No, because
the fan fest were even so they would connect us to a private instance server, but we were on the live servers. Like with our actual characters, they asked us not to trade with people and everything. So yeah, they've got all sorts of setups for stuff like that.
Yeah. So on that note, it'd be neat to see them just say, hey, here's this stuff, and here's this moments in time where we're all participating in it, and they could deck out the cities with all the different, all the different things. And that's one of the things that Chris and I talked about, how hopefully even going forward, when let's say the physical one returns, there's a physical and a digital thing happening at the same time. I think that would bring the community together. Oh, you weren't able to get tickets because turns out, they were sold out. Okay, well, not a problem.
That's the silver lining to 2020,
put a TV screen in game.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the silver lining to 2020 is that ideally the positive things that come out of it, we don't have to give all those back to go back to normal. hopefully people do get to keep the parts, and that extends to Final Fantasy XIV. That extends to so hopefully anything that works really well here that they weren't going to try before because they were too busy organizing an enormous amount of work. Hopefully, like, okay, we really liked that we decorated the capital cities. We're going to do that again. So hopefully there is something there. I don't know if it's my turn to talk, but I will tell you that what I think is that this is a chance to do all the more fan-driven stuff. So if the first part is all the things that are going to get posted to Kotaku and IGN and all of that, this is where we get things like Q&As, and if there is a more like live letter reveal portion where they show like a job thing, that's where you find out about like the equivalents of like a tank stance added or whatever. They won't show too much because whatever they do show, we're already going to read poorly as a community because we only have the context of Shadowbringers. We're not gonna have the content to go with it, and so like that's why they don't reveal like job damage numbers, because like the numbers are kind of in a void. So like they'll show us just enough that we can start like losing our mind, but not enough to have the ability to like re-ground ourselves. And so I think that's, I would love to see that be where panels are and Q&As, and just a reminder. One of the things I think the 14 community does really well is that our devs are people, right? And we know their names, we know what they look like, they have personalities, they play in a rock band together. There's just a ridiculousness to it that I think this first one won't capture, and so that's what I'm hoping for. I think if there's a second job that it could get pushed to there. Probably won't be, but that would be the place to do that. I don't know.
You just hit me with a really depressing thought. They can't do a concert live on Twitch. They're not going to do a concert live on Twitch. There won't. I don't know when.
Are they going to DCMA themselves?
They could have bubbled. They could have bubbled and pre-recorded.
I'm concerned because they've specifically stated they couldn't do the Primals concert free on Twitch in the past. Like that's why they cut it from the free parts of like that. So it was only for people who were attending. I think there's a mix of music laws that go into. I don't think it's just about DMCAing themselves. So I don't think we're gonna get a concert. I didn't even think about that.
Well, that's such a bummer.
Maybe they found a way. I'm gonna be hopeful they found a way.
Life finds a way. I definitely agree in terms of like if there is a second job. I think that's always kind of the thing up in the air when we look at the roles and everything that's balanced. I wouldn't mind if they ended up just doing like one job, but if we get two, I think essentially
we had a release date also, right?
They typically give the release date at the announcement. They'll be like, or a target.
We'll get a season with this one,
yeah,
next Friday, and then we'll get the actual date.
Yeah, as it gets closer, yeah. So like I think that's going to be something important to see. I think obviously as the year rolls, one of the things I thought was really interesting at the media tour is that they kind of showed off other systems besides the job changes. So we got the fate updates with how like the bicolor gemstones work, and I was like, that's interesting. I think essentially like hopefully we start to see kind of newer systems and kind of updates or showing those things off, like when they say let's say they say trusts are coming backwards through the previous expansions. Okay, how is that going to work? How, like maybe they show that off around the Fan Fest, kind of saying, hey, like this is, how it's going to work. And, I would think it'd be similar, but you never know. Whenever they program things in this game, it's typically from that point forward. So we don't get a lot of, downward direction in terms of like, hey, we fixed this thing in Shadowbringers. Everything else before that's still going to function the exact same way.
Hey, you say that, but Shadowbringers finally brought us every mount being able to fly.
Yeah, but see how long that took.
While.
But look how long that took.
And now we can fly an ARR.
Yeah. But
I did not think the game needed, but I do appreciate it when I'm occasionally there.
Yeah, I think that just highlights like, hey guys, how hard is it? It's hard. Like it took that long. And we're still waiting on Eggy Glamours.
It's time for the armory chest.
You don't want to bring that up.
To get another tab. So for
you don't want to bring up Eggy Glam. You don't want to do that. Don't do that.
These are questions I don't ask.
I'm actually hopeful for it.
Oh, serious?
For 6.0. Yeah, I think they're going to completely rework Summoner again, and part of it's going to be a whole new interface.
It needs to be
the Eggy Glam.
After they took away like Titan's ability to tank. After they I have struggled so much with Summoner this whole expansion, like so much. Like it's just been like I've been working on a new controller guide because I was like, maybe if I just put a little bit more time in, maybe if I just really twist this and try to get it to work. And I'm just like, I really do not like playing Summoner right now, and I hate that because I've been a Summoner main since 2.0. And Chris's and I's video today kind of addresses this because it's like, make sure you got a backup job in case that, you're not starting at level 1, because that's important. So as far as announcements and things that I feel like they'll announce later, I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's going to be baked off of what all 6.0, they announced here, because just like I think everybody here concluded, we'll see it's kind of maybe like 1.5 to 2 point something FanFest kind of all bundled into the February announcement, and then like FanFest will be a good way for them to rehash what they've already told us, show off some of the things like we get in the second live, typically with the second live letter, like, hey, we're going to show off some of these things and go from there. Any other thoughts on this topic, Chris? Because like one question I have for the group is when Happy brought up the Alliance raid, what is that guest creator or what is that content? Because I would like to.
No idea. I would love for it to be something under the Square Enix umbrella. I just think that'd be neat. I'd love for it to be another Final Fantasy or I mean, we have so many. Square Enix is enormous. I would love for it to be in-house, just because I think that there's probably some, I don't know. I think it's incredibly fan service driven. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't need to be outside of 14. It's a big enough game now. We could have a 14 driven one. I just think it will be.
Please, no more Nier.
It's too much crossover for me. It's too big of a thing.
It's too much meaningless crossover. It could have been.
I think you hit it right on the head. I'm hopeful for 5.5 that it gets like where with Alexander. I didn't really enjoy Alexander until the third and final chapter, and I go, oh, I really enjoyed this because it kind of made everything connected. The whole Nier thing, I'm just like, the fights are cool. I'm so disconnected from it, especially and I'm like, is it Nier or is it the fact that I was coming off of Ivalice? And Ivalice I thought was just crushed.
Let me be clear.
Yeah.
I don't like any blind fan service. I don't like Omega because it's blind fan. It's Final Fantasy fan service, but it's blind and pointless fan service. If that's all I want to avoid. Nier didn't have to feel that way. It just does. It's nothing against Nier.
No, it wouldn't matter what game you swap it out with, right? It's too much of one game inside another game.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And it's not like Rathalos where it's one fight, right? We didn't get one Alliance raid in addition to the normal Alliance raid schedule that was Nier based. It was a whole thing. You got cutscenes, you got characters in game, you got glam, you got and so it's a lot. And so the moment that you're like, hey, I want to log into 14 to play 14, it's a lot. Especially if they like me, like you, like anybody who didn't play Nier, then it's like, well, how am I supposed to connect to this content? It's a lot of it. It's well done. It's just a lot.
I would say
don't do it again.
I would say if they were going to do something with a guest, that kind of guest creator mindset for it, all chips on the table, Final Fantasy XI Dynamis. I think if they made a Dynamis theme Final Fantasy XI 24-man raid, that would be something that my inner heart, my inner nerd would just love. A, it's related to Final Fantasy. B, we've already had a connection to Final Fantasy XI in the game's past, so it is somewhat more connected to that aesthetic and that art style, and that would just be my ultimate dream in terms of like getting a little bit of that tap back into it. I thought Eureka was a really good kind of remembrance of Final Fantasy XI, and only that Final Fantasy XI did it far better. But that is just me. Chat's definitely saying like Kingdom Hearts.
No, well, you know what? That's not even an I don't want it. That won't happen. Do you understand how difficult it is to do collaborations with Disney, with the mouse? Do you want to let the mouse in? You think it's a Square Enix property. It's a Disney property.
Is that what's wrong with Marvel Avengers right now?
No, that's a whole different story. We don't want to talk about that. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, that's gonna overextend segment number 2. All right.
I hope that you really enjoyed that highlight, and I hope that you check out the full podcast. Again, link is in the description. Thanks for being here, and I hope you have a fantastic day, you wonderful, beautiful individual.